Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 9. So the first thing I want to say is that hopefully by my good calculations, this should probably be my last video of 2022. I think I should be uploading this on New Year's Eve, at least Australian time, so hopefully that all works out and it's playing correctly. So I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone. Thanks for 2022. Hopefully 2023 is better for everyone. And Happy New Year. Now, in this final season of The Flash, we are expecting, like a decent amount to go down, seeing it is, obviously, the final go-around for your boy, Barry Allen, and all of that, and all the Team Flash and stuff like that. But one thing that we aren't really overly or just too sure about is whether it will feel like a proper final and complete wrap-up for the show. Of course, Season 8 was intended potentially to be the final season of the show, and that didn't really feel like that at all. It felt like maybe if that was the case, they must have been told literally as they were halfway through filming the season finale for Season 8. So hopefully that's different come Season 9. It actually sort of feels like a final season. Now, of course, it is hard to appeal to everyone or, please everyone when it comes to that. Some people will be like, oh, yeah, that's exactly how I wanted it to go. Everything I thought should have happened did happen for the most part and everything like that. But then they're going to be, the other side of things and the other side of people who, that could be me or it could be you or it could be both of us who aren't really happy, with how everything or just one particular part of the final season, whether it's a character or a storyline, was handled and wrapped up and all that jazz. So, it can be hard to please everyone. Now, of course, this involves various parts of the show, but in regards to this video, for the most part, we are going to be focusing on the villainous side of things in regards to a various amount of characters and the potential this season has to completely fulfill Barry's, bad guy catalog, or at least one major section of that bad guy catalog. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts on all this stuff, because, you might agree that this is how things are going to go out. You might disagree, or you might have some little changes that you think might be happening, in this final season. So let me know your thoughts down there in the comments. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, want to show support, and you're looking forward to this final season of The Flash, which is just over a month away from finally premiering, want to drop a like on the video to show your support and excitement. So what we are getting at in this video is that the final season of The Flash is set to possibly complete the Flash's rogues gallery on the show right at the end of the final season, which does seem pretty fitting in my opinion. Now, thanks to various, casting announcements, whether it's new characters or returning characters and just various details on the upcoming season's adventures, if you want to call it, in Central City, they do give us a pretty good idea of what is being planned for Barry's final season as The Flash. Now, obviously, elephant in the room, though we only have 13 episodes in this final season, it still does appear that there will, still be a decent amount of villains showing up for Barry and the rest of Team Flash to deal with, whether it's to fight against, thwart an evil plan, whatever it might be. Now, just based off the Season 9 synopsis that we got a few weeks ago, and also some set photos we've gotten, and even stuff from that first teaser trailer we got a few weeks back as well, it does look like Barry will be going up against a new incarnation or iteration of the Arrowverse's Rogues team. Now, one of its members looks to be Captain Boomerang, who is the Owen Mercer version, who it has been confirmed to be among the villains joining the show this season, appearing to be in at the very least episode 1, but it sounds like it's a multiple episode thing because they said that the character was recurring. So that means it's usually not just a one and done episode, but multiple episodes. But it's not 100% confirmed that Captain Boomerang is a part of this Rogues team up happening this season. But it would be a bit weird if Captain Boomerang did not play a part in that if he did show up this season. So you'd assume he would be in there. But outside of that, Barry will also have to deal with the long-awaited arrival of Red Death, but also, as we saw right at the end of Season 8, in that post-credit or final scene, whatever it was made pretty clear that Cobalt Blue would also be making their long-awaited arrival. I was going to say return, but I guess in some ways it could be seen as a return, but mainly arrival as possibly the big bad of the final season. Now, of course, similar to Captain Boomerang being attached to the Rogues, Cobalt Blue still has not been 100% confirmed as the actual villain connected to that crystal we saw at the end of last season, but it seems like the only logical option, and Eric Wallace has sort of confirmed Cobalt Blue without confirming or naming Cobalt Blue at the same time. I don't know why they're hiding it. It's a bit weird. In previous seasons, they've just confirmed it, but Yeah, it's a bit odd, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see why that's the reason when we're watching season 9. Now, over the course of the past 8 seasons, The Flash has slowly but consistently introduced a long list of villains associated with Barry and other holders of the Flash mantle from the comic books. And when you look at it properly, like the Arrowverse's interpretation of the Flash has already included nearly all of his major villains for the most part. Some of the big names obviously being Reverse Flash, Zoom, Gorilla Grodd, but it also involved villains that would be in the comics group made up, that make up the Rogues, such as Mirror Master, Captain Cold, Heatwave, Top, and more. And with Cobalt Blue, Captain Boomerang, and Red Death all showing up in the Flash's 9th and final season, the show won't have really anyone left of major note to give a live-action debut to when it comes to the villain side of things. Now, the characters being introduced in the Flash Season 9 are by far the show's most noteworthy omissions to date. There was, of course, a Captain Boomerang in the Arrowverse before Season 9, but that character was utilized primarily as an enemy of the Hood or Green Arrow, or at the very least was used on Arrow rather than the Flash. Barry, of course, came up against this Captain Boomerang back in the Season 1 days, but that was still in the Arrow episode of that particular crossover. The introduction of a second version in Season 9 does suggest that the Arrowverse is getting ready to deliver a pretty comic accurate take on the character, especially when you look at like the outfit he's wearing and everything like that. And obviously, I guess the more important thing, one who is specifically a villain to the Flash and not just a, bad guy that the Flash runs into while hanging out with Oliver Queen, aka Green Arrow. But along with Captain Boomerang, as I said before, the additions of Red Death and Cobalt Blue potentially also do stand out as notable villains, if you want to call them, from the comics that the Flash hasn't really made proper use of yet, and that we're going to be seeing go down in Season 9. Now, of course, Red Death, it appears that arc ends in episode 5, and maybe the character only does show up in episode 3, but you don't need 7 episodes of Red Death doing stuff. If they come in and they just go balls to the wall and they make their presence known straight away, it's probably good that the Flash probably tries to deal with them as quickly as possible. And it's really high and tense, or high tension if you want to call it, throughout those 2 or 3 episodes. Now, as we mentioned earlier in the video, the Season 9 synopsis did tease an entire team of rogues, with the chances being that the Flash will have even more potential villains showing up than the 3 who we already mentioned before, like Red Death, Captain Boomerang, and Cobalt Blue for the most part. Now, based off the trailer that we got a few weeks back, like that 30-second one, with us potentially getting another trailer, a longer one in the next coming week or 2 that could show us more, it does look like post-crisis versions of both Murmur and the Fiddler will be showing up in this season as well. Now, Murmur hasn't been on the Flash before either, just like Captain Boomerang, but they have been in the Arrowverse back in the earlier seasons of Arrow. Now, the Fiddler was back in Season 4, that's when she showed up, but was killed as part of that whole DeVoe Thinker storyline. So whether this is the same character exactly, played by the same actress, or it's just a completely new version like we've seen in the post-crisis period, where they've got like a Rainbow Raider, but it was a woman instead of a man like we had pre-crisis. It's up in the air. But based off the trailer, it did appear to be a female character like we had in Season 4 for the Fiddler, but that will be something we'll have to wait to confirm because we only really saw the back of them and it looked like the person had longer hair. But then again, in the comics, the Fiddler's a dude who has longer hair, so maybe it's a dude. I don't know. Now, with all of these villains and even more showing up in this final season, packing them all into one season, let alone the opening 5 episodes or so by the looks of it, that might prove to be quite challenging. But putting several of them on one team does indicate they'll be part of a single focus story, won't be all over the place. There's actually a reason for all of them showing up right now, as opposed to the show giving each of the characters individual stories and all of that. Like, if that happened, I don't even know how the hell they would fill that into the first 4 or 5 episodes or whatever it is. So we could get like an episode or 2 early in the season where there's a couple of the Rogues members are introduced. So episode 1, we know that Captain Boomerang's showing up, and I think it's like episode 2 or 3, we know that Murmur's showing up. So in those exact same episodes, Fiddler could show up and whoever else that needs to show up to maybe build up this Rogues team potentially. And especially if they're returning faces, I don't think you need to overly build them up. Like Murmur, for example, is completely new, but it looks of it, fair enough if you spend a bit more time on the character. But like the Fiddler's coming back. We met the Fiddler back in Season 4, especially if it's the same actress. There's like no need to overly introduce this character. We already know them, so they can just quickly show up and say, I'm alive post-crisis, and there you go. But either way, it does look like the Flash will get to end with a complete Rogues gallery for, Barry, which is pretty cool. Now, obviously, the big question is whether the Rogues will satisfy. As I said, it probably goes back to that thing I said earlier earlier in the video, you're going to please some people, you're not going to please everyone. So some people might expect like the Rogue should have gotten a whole season, which I wouldn't be against. But at the same time, I don't know how this story is being used in this final season. It could be the perfect way to set up the Rogues as a continuous threat going forward in Central City. So maybe Barry versus the Rogues in this season, they all go to jail, but none of them are killed or anything like that. And if anything, it makes them even more angry to escape. Who knows? Maybe in the series finale, it's literally Barry versus the Rogues again. It just shows that the Rogues will be this consistent annoyance for Barry going forward in his life. That's the way they could do the Rogues. Maybe that's why they are specifically setting it up perfectly in this final season, so they are there after the show ends, and it's like always going to be a consistent issue for Barry. Now, there is also the possibility that the Rogues could carry on into the back half of the season and maybe even play into the Cobalt Blue storyline. That is a potential thing. It seems like they're going to be like attached to whatever's going on with Red Death this season, and maybe even working with Red Death, not too sure. But if Red Death, or when Red Death story ends this season, does that mean the Rogue story ends as well? Does it play into something I was saying just then, like where they're defeated, they go to prison, then maybe they show up again in the series finale as like a teaser for like what Barry does after the show ends, or like a consistent issue for Barry after the show? Or maybe they do continue, or some of them continue into the back half of the season and play into that Cobalt Blue storyline. Obviously, we don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. But we know a character like Becky Sharp or Hazard is showing up in like episode 6 or 7 after the Red Death story ends. And, you know, she was attached to the DeVoe storyline like the Fiddler was, but she isn't seen as a rogue like the Fiddler would be. So, or the Fiddler could potentially be seen as. So, I don't know. I have to wait and see. It's probably a flip of the coin as to if that's one and done early in the season for them, or if they do show up afterwards. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on the stuff we went over, and your dream Rogues lineup, if you want to call it. Let me know that in the comments. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.